photography at Anime Central. It's a very large convention in Rosemont, which is close to Chicago. I've been doing cosplay photography in one way or another since 2003, basically documentary style photography. I really enjoy it. It's one of my first styles and definitely one of my favorites. With camera equipment, I was using the Canon EOS M6 Mark II with the EFM 22mm f2 STM lens. I think this is a really nice, simple, compact combination. Camera settings. I was using aperture priority the entire time with a minimum shutter speed of 1/60th of a second. With the M6 Mark II, you can set that minimum shutter speed in the auto ISO settings. Very convenient. However, it doesn't have a large range of options, so I went with 1/60th. Maybe a little faster would have been good. I do take consecutive photos as much as possible in these situations. There are various reasons. One is the subject could be blinking. That definitely happens. Autofocus might not be on the face. In my case, I was using face priority autofocus with the M6 Mark II and with masks a lot of the time, which is how things were at this convention. It's not going to be perfect. Sometimes you have to tap on the screen, but even then it's going to be finicky with how Canon implements that specific mode of autofocus. Of course, you can use single point autofocus if you prefer that. I can crop in on the photos to get a closer view, so if I did take multiple photos while I'm editing, leave one as is, crop in on the second photo. M6 Mark II has a lot of pixels to use, which is nice for that. I started in the dealer's room. I like the atmosphere of these areas. You have a lot going on. It's pretty busy. Not ideal for cosplay photography, and etiquette is something you should consider as a cosplay photographer or just anyone trying to be polite to others in the same space. It is one of the most challenging areas for photography due to being extremely busy. The lights are not great in that specific hall. They have a strong green cast and they produce unflattering shadows due to their position. You can use supplemental lights in those cases if you're into that, you want to go that far. These days, I really haven't gotten much into flash. I did it previous years, and it does definitely help if you want to fully control the situation. In my case, snapshots like this are good enough for me. Think about positioning and look at the photos, look at the subject, make sure the shadows are working for that specific spot. For me, mobility and enjoyment of the event are higher on the list of how I want to go about it than using extra equipment, trying to deal with supplemental lighting. Etiquette is important in my opinion. If you do want to stop someone for a photo, make sure that they're not busy trying to buy something or talking to someone. Also consider the pathway and not blocking that. So when you position a cosplayer, point to where you want them to stand and then have them face a certain direction so that you're not blocking other people from getting around. Quickly ran into two friends in that area, so I spent quite a bit of time with them walking around. Didn't take as many photos as I could have, but again, my focus is on enjoying the convention, and photography's there as a supplemental thing. It worked out nicely. In addition to taking photos of the cosplayers, I like taking photos of the booths, all of random merchandise that catches my eye. A lot to see in that area. Besides the dealer's area, there is a artist alley, very large, interesting, and especially unique things because each individual person basically makes their own stuff. I found the Chicago Cosplay and Photographer Meetup group. I have since then gone to one of their events. Great people. They do an awesome job at connecting cosplayers and photographers. I've known Eddie for a long time, so he was there. I talked to him a little bit. Running a full booth for photography. I believe it was all free for the cosplayers to go there and get their photo taken. Of course, they were doing the smart thing in dealing with the harsh lighting of that convention center hall by using a lot of flash.
How you doing?
Good to see you. Glad you made
Likewise. How's this been going for you?
Good. It's
A lot of work.
I know. It was a lot of work to get done, and
right.
we decided we weren't going to change out light setups every photographer.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Oh, what's up?
I'll just say that. But yeah, no, it's been good so far.
Mind if I get a photo of you all ready for action?
One of my favorite areas for cosplay photography is the entrance of the convention center. For some reason, the mixture of artificial lights, and I think they must have skylights or something coming down because the lighting is so much better in that area in the daytime. It's diffuse, it works well, great spot for cosplay photography, and considering it is somewhat of an entrance, a lot of people are walking through there, hanging out, so you have a lot of options to ask a cosplayer or a group of cosplayers to take their photo. It's a really good spot for this specific convention. Also took photos of a friend with her League of Legends cosplay outdoors. Really interesting thing is that they built a bridge between a really large park in the area and the convention center.
Look at this guy.
Hello.
What's up?
Friend number 2.
Yeah. How you been? Hi.
So now we have access to that, which is great for photography. Of course, there are insects, mosquitoes, so that's a detriment, but still really, really nice location.
Get a lot closer. Yeah.
That worked well, walked around, took some photos. Again, the only thing I had was the 22mm lens. If you are doing private photo shoots with cosplayers,
Maybe one quick photo over here with the more nature look.
you should bring at least one extra lens, but something a little bit more narrow in focal length, or wider depending on your style. Went back to the convention center to do more photography. ACEN has expanded a lot and they use so much more of the convention center than they have in previous years. That's good for opening things up and just making it not as cramped. So usually in the past, the hotels were super popular, but more so convention center now. I usually call this style of photography hallway cosplay photography. And with that, there's etiquette involved and also hand signals. Especially when you're wearing a mask, it's hard to communicate. So I have a quick little list of that, motioning the camera before asking to take a photo so that you more easily, effectively get the point across of what you're trying to do.
Want to take your photo?
And then also using hand motions to adjust their position. 2 hands parallel and vertical. You can use that to have them shift left or right. Pointing, of course, have them stand in certain areas to, again, deal with traffic and not blocking things. I also rotate my wrist so they get the idea of shifting their shoulders and such. A few quirks of the convention. I probably should have used a white balance card or something in the various areas, take a photo of that to help out with editing. Didn't do that. There's a lot of mixed lighting, a lot of things to deal with. Of course, if you use flash, you can control at least a foreground. And if you want that look of a mix of controlled foreground light plus whatever's in the background, you can do that. Anime Central is a great convention if you've never been to it. It's good for photography. So many people around in awesome costumes, cosplay you can take photos of. With convention photography, in my case, I'm trying to strike a nice balance of enjoying the convention and getting nice photos out of it. I do think the M6 Mark II with the 22mm f2 lens is a solid combination, works well, convenient, compact, and nice quality photos out of it. If you want to step that up another notch in quality, go for a full frame setup with a 35mm lens in that case. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this photography talk about Anime Central 2022. Sky Photography Bonsai, thanks.